The New York Yankees are unlikely to sign Cody Bellinger as they are at an impasse. Multiple contract offers out there on the table, several contract options out there, both of the long-term variety and short-term with opt-outs after the first, second, third year. Tons of variety here from the New York Yankees as far as a contract, and yet they are still so very far apart on contract that most in the industry expect him to sign elsewhere. In fact, the Yankees are indeed signaling that they are expecting him to sign elsewhere. Don't close the door on it entirely. You never say never. But as of right now, it looks like Cody Bellinger may have very well played his last game in a Yankees uniform. The market for Bichette and Kyle Tucker are both heating up. Bichette seen as the favorite, according to a couple reporters out there in the industry, of going to the Philadelphia Phillies. The Cubs made a big splash over the weekend, adding Alex Bregman. Congratulations to the city of Chicago for your win with the Chicago Bears over the rival Green Bay Packers. And then getting Alex Bregman as well. Kyle Tucker's market heating up, basically down to 3 teams. Reports say that basically the Toronto Blue Jays, New York Mets, and the Los Angeles Dodgers are the finalists for his services. It sounds like they've had several productive meetings since the new year has come to fruition, and we'll see if they can get a deal done fairly quickly. But before we get started, be sure to hit that like and subscribe, and let's get into it. Alright, appreciate you guys joining us tonight. Make sure you hit that like and subscribe if you haven't already joined us here at the Upside. Be sure to find us over on Facebook as well, Upside Sports Network. When we do go live, we will post there as well. Welcome in Morgan, Sean, Ethan. Appreciate you guys joining us as well. We'll start with the Yankees in their pursuit of Cody Bellinger. They needed to improve this roster offensively, in my opinion. They certainly were looking for a couple of different pitching acquisitions. They were in there for Imai to a certain extent. They were in there for King to a certain extent, but ultimately never really got pen to paper here and put an offer in front of those guys. They were in there on the trade possibility of bringing in Edward Cabrera, and once again, were unable to get it done. Now, of course, there's plenty of names still out there. The Yankees are still the Yankees. They're going to do something to improve their club, right? That's what we've been led to believe for the last 30-plus years. George Steinbrenner, now Hal Steinbrenner, just the way the Yankees are, they're never going to say die. This might be the very first offseason where you would pretty much have to count the entire thing as an L at this point. Still, top free agents are out there. They may very well get a deal done with Bellinger, might surprise us. But at least at this point, this has been a very un-Yankee-like offseason. Things did not go well last year for the Yankees. Kicking off with injuries to their starting staff just did not go well from the jump. And they had a great signing last year in Max Fried. They had to kind of figure out how to recover from the loss of Juan Soto, and I thought they did an admirable job with what they did, but ultimately it still did not prove to be enough. You enter this offseason with the idea that you're probably going to have to improve your offense, which means bringing back Bellinger and probably looking at adding another bat to this lineup. Doesn't look like they're going to add a bat for certain, and now they may very well lose the best bat that they had going into free agency for the second straight offseason. Does not bode well for the Yankees. Now, Aaron Boone is trying to send us down a stream here, throwing us a yarn about how they're going to hold their players more accountable, how they're going to be better from within. That's what teams that don't have money say. That's what teams that aren't willing to spend in free agency say. Is that really where we are? I understand the CBA negotiations are a thing, and the Yankees certainly have a large payroll already. But, excuse me? You're the freaking Yankees. What are you talking about, dude? Like, Brian Cashman, you guys already know my issues with him. I thought he should have been fired before Aaron Judge even hit free agency. I thought the way he had built up his club, basically looking at power and nothing else, was really a poor way to build a ball club. I think he's done a nice job bouncing back, don't get me wrong. But at this point, it's not going to happen. Brian Cashman's going to stay. He's the top of that organization, along with Hal Steinbrenner, of course, the owner. The guy that has to relay that message to the players and to the fan base is Aaron Boone. And Aaron Boone has a very difficult job. I'm not trying to say he's the best in the world at it, but he certainly has one of the most difficult jobs in sports. Head coach of the Dallas Cowboys, pretty difficult. Manager for the New York Yankees, pretty difficult. Those are some very high pressure situations, very high pressure jobs. And Aaron Boone, up to this point, has done a pretty good job managing those things. Now, I know there's some people that are unhappy with the way he manages the bullpen or how he, constructs his lineup. Whatever the case may be, I never really had any issue with what he's done so far in New York. If he's trying to save face for his front office, I get it. But to say that there's not enough accountability in that clubhouse, I have questions about his ability as a manager at that point. If that's your quote-unquote excuse for why you're going to be better this year is because you're going to have better accountability, one, is Aaron Judge not the leader, by example at least, in that clubhouse? Two, you're the manager. Aren't you in charge of that accountability to begin with? I have questions that I didn't have before entering this offseason about Aaron Boone. And I know a lot of Yankees fans out there that weren't on the Aaron Boone bandwagon and just want to see him gone are already going, hey, where were you a year ago when he should have been gone? He hadn't deserved it yet. And at this point, he still doesn't as of now. But if accountability is really the thing that's going to turn this thing around, I have questions about why it's an issue at this point and why the Yankees think they're going to be better as a result of having better accountability, yet less talent on the field. We'll see if this works out for the Yankees this year. But with Cody Bellinger likely to leave in free agency now, as he's looking for a 7-year deal, and the longest offer that the Yankees have offered is a 5-year deal. Sounds like it's in the $150 million range. Leads me to believe there's lots of questions around New York that are a lot more questions anyway than answers in that front office and with that manager. So we'll see what happens here. This is going to be a very big offseason for the Yankees. If they don't bring in Bellinger, a lot of pressure is going to go straight to Aaron Boone. If this thing doesn't go well, you can already see the writing on the wall. Who's going to be framed as the scapegoat after the season, whether it's earned or not? It'll be Aaron Boone. So we'll see how this thing works out. And, hoping for the Yankees fans out there that you get one of these big bats out there. There are 5 teams vying for 3 bats right now. Lots of Arizona Diamondbacks front office personnel were speaking to the media today about, we understood that there was a lack of high-end bats on this marketplace, and yet nobody was willing to make a serious offer for Ketel Marte, and yet 2 of those 5 teams are going to be left without one of those top options to help improve their lineup. Diamondbacks front office anyway were mystified as to why they didn't get better offers when they knew that was going to be the case. Maybe the market pivots back to Ketel Marte at some point, but I'm with the front office there of the Arizona Diamondbacks. Why weren't teams pushing for a guy who's on a very cheap, cost-controlled deal, certainly an aircraft carrier type of player, certainly been a big improvement to this to any one of these clubs? When there's only 3 guys left for 5 chairs, there's at least 2 teams that are going to be left without a player. And let's say one team adds 2 of those guys. That means 3 teams will be left without the offensive improvement they promised their fans this offseason. So we'll see what they decide to do with these top 3 names out there. The teams that are vying for these guys are the Toronto Blue Jays, New York Mets, New York Yankees, Boston Red Sox. The Philadelphia Phillies are, to a looser extent, just on Bichette. And then, of course, the Los Angeles Dodgers. So I guess you could call it 6 teams. But in either event, things are not looking as rosy for some of these teams that miss on these top options. You look at the Red Sox, had a really rough weekend with the loss of Alex Bregman going to the Chicago Cubs. Gets that 5-year deal, $175 million with, I believe, $50-ish million deferred. Essentially makes the deal worth about $150 to $155 in present day value. in either event. Bregman actually got the money he was looking for last offseason. When you combine it with that deal and this one, he certainly did very well in free agency. But looking at those teams for those three bats, we're looking at Bichette, we're looking at Kyle Tucker, we're looking at Cody Bellinger. Not those players can't play for multiple teams in a season. It's just not how it works. So we'll see who ultimately comes up with the best offer, and I think best offer will win. I don't think it'll be up to, hey, I'd rather play for my hometown team. Hey, I'd rather take a hometown discount to be back with my old team. I think it's going to be pure and simple. I want the best offer on the table. I want the best situation for me and my family. Those kinds of things. So we'll see who ultimately wins the bidding for these players. All right, let's check out some of these comments here and try to catch up with a few of them. You hope that Tucker does sign with the Blue Jays. I still think he ultimately goes there, although it sounds like he has had really productive meetings with both the Dodgers and Mets as well. So honestly, I think it could be any team right now. He is a fairly low-key guy, wants to keep to himself, not necessarily be the spokesman for a team. The Dodgers are the team for that. Blue Jays probably second, Mets probably a distant third there, because he will be expected to speak to the media pretty much at a daily, on the daily there. So we'll see how things work out for Tucker and where he decides he wants to play. Will the Cubs sign anyone else? Sean, I certainly hope that they do. For me, I just think that they need to add one more starting pitcher, but I wonder if they'll wait until the trade deadline to do it. I don't think they trust the number 5 option. I don't think they really trust this rotation as a whole until they get their full group back and healthy. With Steele coming back from injury, got to watch out for that as well. But don't be surprised if they're a more active team at the deadline trying to add some starting pitching. What did you do with Michael? Well, I had to get a haircut, my friend. It was getting a little warm for me and a little long, unruly to keep anyway, and I don't really want to spend time in my morning messing with my hair. So, yeah, shave it all off was the answer. Do you have any clue when Bregman's press conference is? I do not. I would imagine it's probably going to be in the next couple of days, though not very long thereafter. Joseph, what is it going to take for the Yankees to get Nico Hoerner? They are interested in Nico Hoerner as a fallback option here. They are also interested in Luis Robert. You're starting to see multiple names pop up around the Yankees as far as who they could try to acquire, either through free agency or on the trade block to help improve this roster. What would it take to get him? I wouldn't say a whole lot. He's in the final year of his deal, but it sounds like the Cubs may ultimately want to keep him and possibly pivot off of Matt Shaw. So we'll see if they ultimately move on from Hoerner. I just doubt they do, at least at this point, unless it's for, say, a starting pitcher at the deadline. I could see that happening, especially if they don't get a long-term deal done as well. Jay, why hasn't Tucker signed yet? What is he waiting for? I would say he's probably waiting for the best offer on the table. I still think he's getting improved offers every single day that he waits here. I don't think the market has stalled out on him. If it did, I think we'd have a decision pretty quickly here. And I think he has a number in mind of what he's looking for. I think he has a preferred destination he wants to play for. Maybe he just wants that team to up their offer enough to where he's willing to take that offer versus going to the other 2 ball clubs, but we shall see. It's a nice haircut. It was needed. Thank you, my friend. Appreciate you. The traditional big spenders are nervous about the upcoming CBA. Absolutely there. Agree with you completely on that one. When Jeter retired, he was looking. When Jeter retired, he took the Yankees aura with him. Well, I don't know about that. The Yankees are still the Yankees. I mean, do they have the same championship aura? I'd say they're still a team that's defined by championships. They need to get back on that path, and we'll see if they do so. Who are you taking in the AFC? I'm going with the Texans. That was actually, along with the Patriots, were my pick to get to the AFC Championship game. I believe I had the Patriots going to the Super Bowl, but I'm pulling for the Texans. But I think the Patriots will get there. I just think it's an easier road for the Patriots to get there as far as the teams and how they match up against those teams than the Texans. Although the Texans have a great defense, and if that offense can stay out of its own way, they should be the team that gets there. They're probably the more talented team, top to bottom, but we'll see who ultimately gets there. On the NFC side, I'm still leaning towards the Seattle Seahawks, but I could be convinced of a number of teams there as well. Congratulations to my Texans. That defense is so dominant, they made the Steelers look like a Titans. Imagine 6 points in a playoff game. Yeah, I mean, it was old man Rodgers. Father Time caught up to him all at once, really. Someone is going to get stuck with Suarez. I believe so. Eugenio Suarez, sounds like he is going to have a couple of teams that are more likely for him now than the Pittsburgh Pirates. With Bregman going to the Chicago Cubs, that actually opens up the Boston Red Sox for Eugenio Suarez. So we'll see if that happens. If you're referring to Ranger Suarez, I think this is a guy that's pretty much going to be choosing between the Mets, the Orioles, and to a lesser extent the Phillies. I've heard all three teams in there. I'm leaning towards the Baltimore Orioles is where he'll go, but that would assume they're willing to take on another big long-term contract. I'm not sure they have the appetite for it. So, maybe that's part of the hesitation there from Ranger Suarez is maybe he's got other offers that are a little bit better, whatever it may be, than the Baltimore Orioles, but we shall see. As far as the Phillies go, I still think they should bring back Ranger Suarez just because of the playoff pedigree and what that rotation has going forward for it. I just don't think they have enough in the saddle. I don't think they have enough ammunition right now in that rotation to be able to hold down the fort through the entire season and be able to win a World Series. I just think this is a team that needs more talent. We'll see if they get it. Anthony, welcome in. Upside, why do you think that Miami couldn't trade Sandy? Were they asking too much for him, or specifically just waiting till the deadline after the All-Star break next season? I still think they could trade him before pitchers and catchers. I don't think that is out of the realm of possibility as well. But I think Cabrera had the more value out there, and so they wanted to maximize his return. Now they can turn their attention to Sandy Alcantara. If the market doesn't really hold the guys teams are looking for, if nobody's interested in Gallen, nobody's interested in Valdez, etc., maybe they could then turn towards Sandy Alcantara, who isn't going to cost a whole heck of a lot via trade. But if they're able to rehab his value by the trade deadline and they decide to hold on to him as a result, we shall see. But those are some interesting ways the Marlins could go. Let's see here. I'm here. A team that could be in on Tucker now is the Boston Red Sox. I'm going to go ahead and say no on that one, primarily because they have too many outfielders as is. Could they flex somebody like Rafaela to the infield? Sure. But I just think they've got so much talent in the outfield right now. I think they're looking more infield options, which is why the Boston Red Sox have been connected to Bo Bichette. The Yankees, with the likely loss of Bellinger, have also been connected to Bo Bichette as well. So he's going to have a nice group of teams fighting for his services, where it looked like possibly he'd have to settle for just taking a big money contract from a team that's not exactly ready to win a World Series, like the Washington Nationals. So he should do very well in free agency, and it sounds like Boston could view him as a third or second baseman, but we shall see. Joshua, they'll keep Sean Horner. Shaw had 800 plus OPS in the second half last year. I do think they'll hold on to this team as currently constructed at least until the trade deadline. Once we get close to the trade deadline, I think that's when they're going to try to push for another arm in that rotation, and one of those two could be the cost of that type of a move. Short-term, the one-year deal left on Horner obviously makes him a little bit more expendable and thus a little less valuable than Shaw, and that's probably why the Cubs will try to hold on to Shaw out of those two. Justin, what do I think the Diamondbacks will do next after trading Jake McCarthy? They traded him to the Rockies earlier. They got the 20th best prospect out of the Rocky system, I do believe, in that deal. I think this is more about roster flexibility more than anything else. I think that's really what they're shooting for right now. They're just trying to patch things up around the edges of this team. I don't think they're doing anything big. I don't think Ketel Marte moves at this point. I think that ship has sailed. I think that will be revisited at the trade deadline if they're out of it. And if they are still in it, then maybe at next year's winter meetings, if we have winter meetings with the CBA negotiations, of course. Can the Canes beat Indiana? I would say that the defense has a real chance to hold down Indiana. The offense, I have my questions about as far as with the Hurricanes, but I think the two teams match up very well as far as making it for a good game. So I don't think it'll be a blowout one way or the other. I do think it'll be highly competitive. So we'll see how the chips fall. Jay, who do you think the next pitcher will sign? As far as a big name, I think it'll ultimately be probably Ranger Suarez, with Valdez pretty closely thereafter. I'm heel. Let's see here. Kyle Tucker was born in Tampa, and the Rays got a new owner. Is it destiny? I'm going to say no. The Rays just don't spend at that level. They've been in on Freeman at that level of 6 years for $150 million. That was the offer that was reported out there when Freddie Freeman was a free agent. They've tried big money offers to other guys they really saw value in. Kyle Tucker doesn't really fit their type of player mold, though. They have plenty of outfielders already that they're working with. They just traded for a prospect that's going to play the majority of time in their outfield already. They don't really have a spot for him. Of course, they could make room for him, but I think this team is looking for other ways to improve their ball club other than Kyle Tucker. Framber back to Houston? No, they added Imai. They also added Burrows. They have moved on from Framber Valdez. He is going to take the biggest contract offer that he can get, and that's likely going to be a shorter-term deal with a higher average annual value from either the Mets, the Orioles, or a surprise team. What are your thoughts on the Cubs so far? Incredible offseason. I'm really stunned at what they've done. They've rebuilt that bullpen. 3 guys from arguably the best bullpen in the game last year in the Texas Rangers, bringing in Milner, Webb, and Phil Maton as well. This bullpen is remade. I believe they've added 5 arms back there. They've added to their rotation now with Cabrera, and now the lineup, Alex Bregman. They've certainly made a better roster. My questions are, does this rotation hold up, and how does the back end of this bullpen hold up as well? Remember, they had a great bullpen last year in Texas, and 3 of those arms that had good years are now with the Chicago Cubs. You guys know the one thing I always say about bullpens, though, is that they are always what? One year they're up, the next year they are down. They are always mercurial. So we'll see if this thing works out for the Cubbies in the bullpen or if they have to address it at the deadline as well. Do you think the Cubs are done signing players? No. I think they'll still add probably one more piece. Do I expect it to be the starting pitcher I think they should get? No, I think they'll probably wait until the deadline and realize, hey, we don't trust X, Y, and Z starters, so we need to add one more. I think that's how things will go for the Cubbies this year. But what a nice job by the Cubs adding Alex Bregman. Hats off on finally ponying up here and paying the tab and getting an elite offensive bat into that lineup. So let's see here. Other things I wanted to touch on here before we get too far into the video is Bo Bichette. Ken Rosenthal was speaking on Fair Territory, I believe this morning anyway, and he was referencing the negotiations between Bo Bichette and other ball clubs. He was mentioning specifically the Philadelphia Phillies. In his view, he views the Phillies as the quote-unquote favorite for his services, whatever that means. Usually Ken Rosenthal doesn't give predictions like that, but I think he kind of had a little bit of a slip there. He doesn't usually divulge that kind of information. Tells me Philadelphia's desire to improve this offense is, or at least improve this team overall, is significant, and they might be willing to go beyond whatever they're comfortable with from a financial standpoint in order to get there. But with Dombrowski at the head of that organization, leads you to believe that that might very well be the case. But we'll see if they can get those things across the finish line. As far as the Red Sox, they have also turned their eye to Bo Bichette after losing Alex Bregman. We'll see if they are ultimately able to land him. Would Shaw be a reasonable trade target for the Mariners? At the deadline, possibly, but I mean, what are the Mariners going to give up? Prospects? The Cubs are still trying to win right now. I'm not saying they're all in, but they're looking for MLB-ready talent. The Mariners have a great prospect pool. I think there are other better options that you can get on the trade market for what the Mariners are looking for. But I think as far as the Mariners go, I think Brennan Donovan, names along those lines, are a better fit for the organization than a Matt Shaw. I think the Texans can go all the way to the Super Bowl. What do you think? I think they can as well. Like I said, there's no elite team this year on either side. So your guess is as good as mine. I know the NFL is really hoping for there not to be a Houston versus Carolina Super Bowl. But I think they're going to get a good one either way. I think it'll be a very compelling final couple weeks of the season here. All right. Check in on one more thing anyway on Kyle Tucker. He's had very productive meetings over the past couple of days with the 3 teams that are perceived to be the only ones in on him at this point. We'll see if they ultimately get a deal done with one of those 3 clubs. But the teams are the Dodgers, the Blue Jays, and the Mets. Mets are seen as a bit of a wild card here because he doesn't necessarily love the spotlight, and he's going to be in the spotlight there in New York, but money talks. If the best offer comes from them, just depends on whether it's worth the trouble of being in New York. As far as the other 2 teams here, the Dodgers are looking more of a shorter-term deal with a higher average annual value. Same thing with the Mets. If he's looking for a long-term deal, it's likely that it's going to have to come from the Blue Jays as well. Does Arenado or Donovan get traded before spring training? I would say Arenado, yes, before opening day. I'm not sure about before spring training. Donovan, I'm on the fence about that one. I think it depends on what the Mariners, what their appetite for a big trade is. I wouldn't say this early to the season, but as we get closer and closer to pitchers and catchers reporting, When are they willing to make that move? How long are they willing to drag this thing on for before they just say, hey, we'll roll with the team we got? Carolina is out. They are, yes. But my point was that the NFL, I'm sure, was crossing their fingers that they would not have Carolina versus Houston in the Super Bowl. I doubt they would get either coast to tune into the game. I think they're more hoping for like San Francisco versus the Patriots or Buffalo versus, you know, the Rams or something along those lines. Where does Arenado end up? My guess is probably the Angels at this point to kind of fill in for Rendon. Doesn't sound like the Angels are willing to spend big this offseason after buying out the contract of Rendon. Sounds like they're looking to kind of keep the payroll down here, and Arenado would be a nice way to improve that ball club. But if Arenado just is willing to, or is just wanting to get out of St. Louis, he may have to just take the best deal that some team is willing to offer the Cardinals and just accept a trade there. But we'll see how things work out for Arenado. But I do think Arenado is the more likely of those two names to get traded. All right, let me pop up my screen here really quick for you guys before we head out for the evening. All right. So these are some of the headlines we saw anyway from MLB trade rumors. We saw the Rays get a deal done, kind of clearing up some roster space for the Atlanta Braves with Waldichuk and Wisely coming in. The Yankees, as I mentioned, having the turning the page a little bit here on Cody Bellinger. I wouldn't close the door entirely on that, but I'd say it's more likely than not that he plays for another team next season. So we'll see where he does sign. The two teams that are supposedly in on him the hardest were the New York Mets and the New York Yankees. I'm curious if the Mets are really willing to give that long-term money to him when they weren't willing to give it to Pete Alonso. Two very different players, flexibility, defense, all those kinds of things, but still mystifying that they're willing to do it for a guy like Bellinger, who is a good player, don't get me wrong, but they had one that was Mr. Met anyway, with Pete Alonso deciding to leave and go elsewhere as well. Do Scherzer and Verlander sign anywhere? They do. Both players I do think will sign. I think the Blue Jays are a legitimate chance for Scherzer. I would not be surprised if the Detroit Tigers added one or both of those guys on, as they still have some injuries in their rotation that they're trying to solve going forward with guys being out for a considerable period of time to start the season. Other teams that could use them, I think the Cubs, if they're still on the market in, say, June, July, and then they could sign in free agency at that point. Maybe they're willing to only play half a season. That's a possibility as well. You never know with some of these older guys that are just trying to hold on and see if they can win one more ring. So you never really know with Scherzer or Verlander where specifically they'll go, but I do think both of them will be on a roster come opening day. All right, couple other things I wanted to get into. I know we usually talk a lot of MLB on this show. We're going to try to diversify our show a little bit here going forward. We're going to have our Upside Sports Talk we're going to get into a couple of times a week. With the NBA trade deadline coming up as well, we're going to have a couple of trade deadline specific shows. We're going to talk about all the names on the market. This year already had some activity with Trae Young getting traded to the Washington Wizards. The big trade we were waiting for was Anthony Davis. Now seems like that is very unlikely, pending how those second opinions go for Anthony Davis. Cubs need another outfielder to replace Casey. They don't really need to. They already have enough in-house that they're working with. I do think that they could use another bat, I suppose, in that outfield at the trade deadline, but right now I think they're pretty much full up. They have some guys in the minors they trust as well. I don't necessarily see the impetus to make the move right now. I think there's ways that they can still hold things down, even if they have regression in that outfield. Say Ian Happ has a poor year, he's only on a one-year deal. They could easily bring in somebody to fill that void, all those kinds of things. I'm Heel. Also, if no Texas Ranger has Kit Wilson theme as their walk-up song, I'm going to be disappointed. Well, we shall see. Does John Morant get traded? Sounds like there's real interest in him from a couple of different teams. Do I think he gets traded? I think the team and the agent will eventually work on a deal and get a deal done. The question is, does it happen at the trade deadline or does it happen in the offseason? It's very difficult to see a trade really coming to fruition without them having to include draft capital in order to offload that deal. But it sounds like they're wanting pieces back in return as far as draft capital, so maybe teams won't see eye to eye on a John Morant trade. Anthony Davis would get injured being your co-host. I don't know. He might get a paper cut and be out for 6 months. Who knows? When will Bregman have his intro press conference? I am not sure. I do believe it's going to happen sometime in the next couple of days, so just be watchful for that one. He was at a Chicago Blackhawks game tonight and greeted warmly by the Chicago faithful there during that game. Could we see Austin Hayes platooning with the Martian? Possibly, Joseph. I think he's a player, or the Martian anyway, is a player that's had his struggles against lefties. But to me, with young players, if you're willing to play them at the major league level, then you got to trust them and let them play through their struggles. Now, of course, he's been up to the big leagues for a little bit of time now. Not saying he's a grizzled old veteran, but he's certainly still a younger player, and I do think there's room for growth. We'll see if he can reach the heights that he was expected to when he was signed as an international bonus pool free agent, and we'll see if we can get there. But as of right now, still struggles against lefties. Power disappears at times. Those are the questions around him as well. All right. Other news anyway on the NBA trade front anyway. We got Kuminga news coming out today as well. Going to be looking up that information. We're going to be doing an NBA trade deadline live tomorrow night. We're going to do a little bit of our MLB talk on the in that video as well. That'll be our video tomorrow late evening, if I had to guess, probably in the 7 to 8 o'clock hour, somewhere in there. And then on Wednesday, I have lots going on in the day, of course, but in the evening we'll probably have a little bit longer of a live and discuss some of the NFL playoffs, the moves that are happening. Hopefully we get a deal done with with Tucker or Bellinger first. I think Bichette could take a little bit longer here. But we'll see. I think the Red Sox go after Isaac Paredes, but obviously the Astros are going to ask for a lot. I think he'd be a great get for anybody to go after. I think their preference would be to move on from Christian Walker, but we'll see if Paredes is the name they're ultimately going to have to unload. Remember, they have a little bit of a glut in their infield right now with Correa on board anyway, Pena over there at short. Bryce Matthews, of course, still there, upcoming. Jose Altuve, of course, in that infield. You have Paredes now and Christian Walker over there at first base, and Alvarez is your DH. Not a lot of playing time left for some of those guys, so maybe one guy gets pushed out. I think Paredes is the more higher value piece, so depends on what they're looking for in a trade. If they're looking for assets back, Paredes might be your guy. If you're looking just to offload salary and see if you can make a run at it with Paredes, then I'd say Christian Walker is your guy you're looking to see traded. All right, appreciate you guys joining us tonight. Hopefully you guys had a great Monday out there. We'll be back live tomorrow night around 7:30, so be sure to join us then. Really do appreciate it. Hit that like, subscribe, find us on Facebook, Upside Sports Network. When we do go live, we will post it there as well. What's the news on Kuminga? Basically that the market is starting to move on him as far as other teams starting to register interest. We knew about the Kings' interest, but the Warriors wanted nothing from what the Kings had. There is a possibility that a trade could still happen between those two clubs, but it's going to have to include a third team that's willing to take on some of the contracts from the Kings to satisfy the needs of the Warriors. A lot of news anyway on Daniel Gafford about where he could possibly go. Sounds like the Atlanta Hawks are basically using their Anthony Davis template as far as what they're willing to offer the Mavericks for Anthony Davis, and just trying to apply it a little bit here to Daniel Gafford. Really good, kind of a lower end starting center, top end backup. He's a really good center, probably worth a late to mid first round pick in this marketplace. Boston is said to be interested as well, along with Indiana. Klay Thompson has no shortage of suitors as well. He's had a nice season so far this year. Offense has certainly picked up over the last couple of months anyway. The defense is better than it has been in at least the last couple of years. He should be a contract that's able to be moved from the Mavericks, who are looking to dip underneath those aprons. Other players that are out there, you have Michael Porter Jr., likely to command a first-round pick plus from wherever he ultimately goes. A couple of teams that we've seen interested in him. I know the Cavaliers are looking to shake things up there. I think he'd be an interesting get for them, but we'll see where he goes. But lots of trade talk we'll get into tomorrow night. Remember to join us tomorrow around 7:30 for our live. We'll talk a little bit of MLB as well, and hopefully we'll have one of these bigger signings as well. But appreciate you guys joining us. Hit that like, subscribe. We'll see you guys again tomorrow. Stay safe out there, and we'll see you tomorrow at 7.